And well, for more on this, we're now being joined by WION who is a former German ambassador to NATO and former European diplomatic and security advisor to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl. Welcome to WION, Ambassador Bitterlich. Just moments ago, we heard the White House press secretary saying that Trump will decide on Iran in the next 2 weeks, and further saying that may or may not take place any kind of negotiations with Iran. As of now, still no clear indication of what the US president wants to do with Iran at this point of time. What do you make of that statement, especially the time frame of 2 weeks?
Well, I think President Trump has trying to find a way out of a certain dilemma. He was being more and more on the one hand, under pressure by the Israelis to take part, for example, to take part in the specific bombing of one of the enrichment plants in Iran, or of other strategic sites under the earth, yes. On the other hand, I think he is seeing that this way could perhaps, let's say, destroy the last possibilities to get at the end of the day a, let's say, suitable solution of this conflict. And I think, therefore, he has been trying now to find out a certain way out of this dilemma. He knows exactly that tomorrow will 3 Europeans, France, Britain, and Germany will meet. Foreign ministers will meet their Iranian colleague in Geneva. I do not exclude that in the light of these discussions, the Americans will continue with the assistance of the Omanis to talk directly or indirectly to Iran, where the president could really evaluate at the end of the day, where are we, where could we go, is there a solution reachable? Because on the other hand, he knows exactly at the same time that Israelis are not able, let's say, to lead a war of attrition. Let's say 2 weeks is to some extent, 2-3 weeks is perhaps, I can't say it exactly, a certain maximum of the Israelis where they will need real assistance in a certain moment. I don't think there's a hidden agenda somewhere. What Trump is looking at the same time is, on the one side, a success story, a certain, that he has contributed actively and thoroughly to, let's say, the end of his conflict in a positive way. On the other hand, he's, I think, realistic, more realistic than the Israelis on regime change. And therefore, it's nearer what I call exit strategy I see now.
Right.
This is a complex situation, yes.
Right, Ambassador Bitterlich, you speak that Trump is perhaps navigating a dilemma, and hence the time frame of 2 weeks to decide what US has to do on Iran. Do you think that perhaps Trump is using this window as a time frame to force Iran to yield to his own demands?
This is a certain time frame, and I think he's right to indicate 2 weeks for this. On the one side, he knows exactly how long the Israelis can maintain, let's say, pressure directly on the Republic of Iran. At the same time, he knows the Israelis can't go for a war of attrition. And at the same time, he has to, let's say, have an open time. And I think 2 weeks are excellent. 2 weeks in order to have a real negotiation with the Iranians.
Ambassador Bitterlich,
I think it's a good timing.
All right. The White House press secretary also said for diplomacy, but will also add strength. What do you make of that? Do you think that if negotiations fail in this time frame of 2 weeks, that the US will perhaps join Israel in striking Iran?
Well, the difficulty will the Iranians give in with regard to enrichment? I don't think that anyone can forbid to any country, let's say, to have an enrichment by 3% for fueling a nuclear power plant. Even exceptionally 20% for medical purposes. But will we get from the Iran or the US are times more important than the Europeans insofar, will the US get the clear assurance, the clear, let's say, yes of the Iranians to refrain from any, let's say, enrichment further than 20% in exceptional cases? This is the key to some extent. They will not renounce, let's say, to any enrichment. They will, let's say, stick to the enrichment to the civilian one, 3% and 20%. But how to exclude in the best way, let's say, that the Iranians continue what they have been doing in the last, let's say, year, to enrich till 60% with possibility go till 90% for developing a nuclear bomb. And President Trump at the same time is aware that within the US administration, he has different evaluations on the time frame, let's say, till the bomb on the Iranian side. He knows this too. Therefore, I think what he's trying now is to get a real negotiation by the Iranian side, renouncing to enrichment for military purposes. Full stop. This is the key for the next 2 weeks. And if the Iranians ensure this, I don't think Trump will insist more on regime change, because he knows exactly the history on regime change of the Americans over the last 20 years. And therefore, please, this is, oh, did we lose?
No, I can hear you. Yes, Ambassador Bitterlich, that's what Iran has been saying since the start, that its nuclear program is only for civic facilities and power and not for nukes. And the IAEA had also earlier said that there's no evidence that Iran is pursuing any kind of nuclear weapons. But at this point of time, if negotiations happen, do you think Iran will heed?
Well, let's see. Let's see. And there's really a time if the Iranians are able to give a real credible answer to the US and to others. And I fear a bit that the Iranians will try to use the Europeans, because they know exactly the Europeans are more in favor of a diplomatic solution than the Americans or the Israelis. And they do not like the extension of this war. And they see the calendar at the same time. Next week, there's a NATO summit in The Hague, where the Americans and the Europeans will meet again. And it's a risky period for them. And the key will be, will the Iranians be able to give a real credible answer to the US? I think the US are the key in this. And if the Americans accept such a credible answer, then okay. Therefore, I think 2 weeks is the right pressure on the Iran, let's say, to give a clear and credible answer.
Right. Thank you so much, Ambassador Bitterlich, for joining us here on WION and sharing your insights.
Okay. As always, with pleasure.
Likewise.